Welcome. Today I'm talking to Seemant Sehgal, founder and CEO of BreachLock, to talk more about cybersecurity in business. Now, BreachLock is one of the fastest growing cybersecurity startups with presence in New York, Amsterdam, and London, and serves over 600 clients across the US and EU. It's seen as a disrupting force in a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity testing market, winning multiple awards. BreachLock's unique solution, which we'll find out much more about, uses artificial intelligence to mimic the actions of a hacker, helping businesses to uncover hidden security gaps that could be exploited by cyber criminals. So we'll get much more into that. With Seemant, a very warm welcome to you. Let's start. It seems now such an obvious question to ask, but lay it out for us exactly. Just how important is cybersecurity in modern business and the danger, I guess, of not taking it seriously as a leader?
Firstly, thanks for having me on your show, Georgie. Pleasure to be here. And you're right, it's a very pertinent question, especially in today's context when cybercrime rate is through the roof. It's extremely important to invest in cybersecurity for businesses of all sizes. And the real reason behind is that the traditional crime is now moving to the cyber world, right? If you think of a decade back, it was still very obvious that you would go to a bank physically to rob it. And now you could do it from a different continent, right? So that increases the impact of this problem. Also, it's very cheaper compared to the physical crime to execute a crime like this, because all you need is a toolkit and you can go from there. So that makes it extremely important for businesses to take this problem seriously and to be able to invest just to do the basic hygiene and avoid getting into trouble with it. Now, in terms of the risks, it's mainly the reputational risk that you have if you get compromised, because, data is the new gold and every business is thriving on that gold today, right? And it's even more scary because if your physical gold was stolen, you would get to know about it the next minute. But if your data is copied, it's still there. So you get to know it much later after it's already gone, right? So that's why the risk is not just about you losing the information, but the reputational risk that comes with it. And also the compliance risk that a lot of businesses are not aware of. For instance, if you take regulations such as GDPR or CCPA in the US, GDPR is in the EU. With GDPR, even the smaller businesses might lose fines for up to 2% of their turnover or 10 million euros. That's a hefty fine for a tiny little business, right? So these are some of the important reasons where I think businesses should really care about cybersecurity and not treat it something that was optional a few decades ago.
The digital transformation is happening at such a pace. What impact has that had on cybersecurity protocol and practice?
That's so true, Georgie, because, especially with the pandemic as the backdrop, every business was kind of almost forced into this transformational phase, right? Even the companies that did not want to move to the cloud were kind of forced into that direction. And with that, the cybersecurity community also had to kind of get to the task and be able to protect users in an altogether new environment. So imagine the pre-pandemic era where you were able to still be in your fortress, and that's where the cybersecurity professionals were protecting you in the office environment. Now, all of a sudden, it's the home office environment that's where all the action is happening. So that's what has led to a lot of innovation in the cybersecurity space as well, especially if you look at how businesses in the cybersecurity sphere have evolved to be able to protect the cloud workloads and protect the home office environments. I think the community has done a commendable job with all of that happening in such a short time frame.
I mentioned at the start about the type of testing you do. Tell me a little bit more about that, why it's so effective.
Right. So what we do is, we're a pen testing as a service solution, right? And what does the term pen testing means? It means showing any business what a hacker could do to your business, right? Now, basically finding security gaps, telling you where they are, how they can be exploited. And why this is really very effective is, Georgie, that unlike all the detection investments that you would make, the ROI here is really high, right? Because imagine if a bank is spending, let's say, $30 million on a detection solution over a 3-year period, and in the end, they might or might not be able to detect an attack because the solution was not able to see it, or it didn't happen, right? But that doesn't mean the problem has gone away. with practice like pen testing, you are able to see what are the low-hanging fruits for a hacker, which means you get an immediate return on your investment, because when you see it, you want to fix it, obviously. You don't want to leave it unattended. So I think it's extremely effective. And it's basically telling a business how a hacker sees your business in layman terms.
BreachLock uses both humans and AI in its operations. How do these two things work together, and why is it effective to use both? Will there ever be a time when you go fully AI?
I don't think we're ever going fully AI, because to be able to explain you about that, I have to tell you how the traditional pen testing industry works today. And that's completely human dependent. And I don't think that's the right way to deal with the problem, because by the end of the day, you're dealing with a technology problem. And if technology is not coming to your rescue, you're certainly doing something wrong. So what we do at BreachLock is we marry the artificial intelligence and the automation piece with the skills of the human ethical hacker. And by doing that, we are a hybrid solution. And that's the advantage that we bring to our clients, is best of both worlds. And we'd like to stay that way.
We said that the digital transformation is happening very fast. Well, so too, sadly, is hacking. It's automated much of the time. Criminals using this ever-evolving array of tools. How effective is penetration testing against this? How fast can it evolve and be adapted to keep a pace with this evolving threat as well?
Well, even though there are a lot of vulnerabilities being discovered, pen testing is certainly very effective, because that's the only way you can find out if things are working in the order that you want them to work or not, right? Now, having said that, even for a company like BreachLock or any other company in the world, it's very difficult to keep pace with the amount of vulnerabilities that are being published. If you look at 2021 alone, there were 28,000 vulnerabilities that were published, right? And the way we deal with this challenge is that we invest a lot of our time and resources in the research and development. We're constantly looking outside towards the cyber criminals and the white hat hackers that are publishing these vulnerabilities and exploits, and building those checks in our system so we can really get them to the market in a very fast way, but also a very easy to use way, because it's a technology-based solution that we have.
So what role then can a company like BreachLock play in the wider fight against cybercrime, taking into consideration everything you've just said?
So there's two things that we can do, right? The first thing is around the mindset. So we are really going to promote more and more in the market the mindset of not tested is not secured, right? Because you can make all the investments in terms of dollars and pounds and euros that go into all these solutions that you're building. However, if you've not tested it, how do you even know they work, right? So we are trying to propel this thought process in the leadership community for all businesses of all sizes so that they can really process this thought that not tested is actually not secure, right? So that's the first thing we can do. The second thing, which I also hold very close to my heart, is that I've worked with a lot of these bright hackers, you know, the hacker minds that are very creative people, and they're able to look at a system and basically tell you what it can do, which you were not expecting it to do in the first place, right? And it's really disrespectful to these people when we make them do very silly tasks. So what BreachLock is contributing to that effect is that we kind of envision ourselves as an Iron Man armor that we can put around these pen testers by giving them the power of technology, right? And that's using that, they can really scale themselves. So they don't have to do all the, you know, tiny little things which machines can take care of. And that's why they can thrive on the creativity that they bring onto the table, which is what human minds are all about.
Indeed. In your role as CEO, what challenges then do you see ahead for BreachLock and indeed for the wider industry?
For BreachLock in particular, I get this question all the time from investors and board members, and the answer is always the same. It's the challenge is to build a great team, because if you build a great team, the output will be a great company in the end. And for the industry, I see really the challenge of consolidation of the threat landscape, because people are trying to make a lot of investments into different vendors. And what that really does is, instead of solving the problem, you are kind of expanding on the problem, because now you have more to deal with. And I see in the coming decade that you will have a lot of consolidation happening in terms of your IT landscape, which would eventually bring down your threat landscape.
Seemant, before I let you go, I'm curious, your journey from being an aspirational young man to a successful entrepreneur, and what advice you would give to other entrepreneurs?
So on my journey, Georgie, when you look at it from the outside, it seems like, it's a 3-year-old company going from zero to a multi-million-dollar valuation within no time. That's how you see it on the outside. But for me, it's really been a 2-decade worth of journey from a very small town in India to where I am today, right? And I would be lying if I told you that there was no struggles involved with that. Obviously, there were a lot of sleepless nights and working weekends that went into building BreachLock where it is today. However, it was also possible to do this because of my upbringing from my parents and the values they inculcated in me, because I was always taught that being a good human being is more important than being anything else. And that led to all the success that I had. I was able to take it all on my chin, and that too with a smile. For your other question, in terms of what advice I can give to aspiring entrepreneurs, I've been personally investing in startups and entrepreneurs as well. And one of the advice that I always give all aspiring entrepreneurs is that they should look for a purpose. When they start the business, they should know why they're starting a business. And if the answer is it's a materialistic gain or money, go back to the first question again, because that's never really the answer. Now, don't get me wrong, business is all about money. So if you're not making money, you're not a business in the first place, but it can never be the only answer that you get from the inside. There needs to be a greater purpose. And that's the advice I would give to any aspiring entrepreneur.
Seemant Sehgal, founder and CEO of BreachLock, thank you so much.
You're welcome.